Okay, so just going to show you a little bit about how we work with kids and horses in the HorseBoy method. What we're looking for is oxytocin in the child's body, because oxytocin gets us communication. The way you get oxytocin is in collected rhythms on the horse. So let's see what Boo and Elinor can do with little man there. It's important that there's a really good consistent rhythm. You can see that the horse moves really rhythmically, and look at the smile on the kids. So little man is smiling like this because of the oxytocin.
You want to go faster?
When you work at the canter must be slow and collected like this, which rocks the hips in rhythm, again producing lots of oxytocin. Look at that face. Look at that face.
Shall we go get Panda?
Yeah.
Or Camilla? Who are we getting? Pumpkin? Panda?
Yeah.
Can I put down the pumpkin? Does Panda need to run with the pumpkin?
Yeah.
Oh. Alright, let's go.
So then we move to playing rule-based games.
Let's see if
When we
can get
play rule-based games, you build the child's brain. So we're going to play tag now without explaining the rules of tag, but saying, should we get Vanda? Go on, let's get Vanda. And then if they get Vanda, then Vanda can come get me, maybe.
Got the pumpkin. Alright, now she needs to come get us. Shall we come?
Yeah.
Really quickly.
Yeah.
Oh!
Oh, I'm in!
I just caught.
Oh no, I'm in.
Oh no!
Children cannot build their brains unless they play games. Autistic children typically have a lot of trouble learning the rules of games because they don't do top-down instruction. The horse carries us through the rules of the game. And eventually, after 12 to 24 weeks, the child will take control of the game and say, Vanda should get Samila, Samila should get Rupert or Daddy, and then you know they've gotten it, and listen to the joy. And all created through these rhythms.
She got it! Who are we getting? Let's go after Samila. Yes. Come on, let's get her. We are getting you. We're getting her. We're getting her.
Good horse.
Yeah, this is a pretty well-trained HorseBoy horse. They have to be really joyfully giving not just the rhythm but participating in the game, no spooks. The horse says, yes, yes, I can do that, yes. All right, so shall we go into the forest? Let's just chase them. Those guys, you guys go run into the forest.
Let's
and
go get Wanda.
let's
We're
go
not
get
going
them.
to the forest, we're chasing Wanda.
That's right. So why now go into the forest? Because autism, Greek word for the self, autism, selfism, locked in the interior world, the difficulty of the relationship with the exterior world. But the horse can carry us into the exterior world effortlessly, delightfully, filling us with oxytocin, communication hormone. We can start to talk about the trees, the nature, the science, and we're away. So now we're in the forest. So now we're going to set up a little treasure hunt where we start to learn some animals that might live in a giraffe, and we can project our imaginations too. This is now no longer a Texas forest. This is a East African forest, and look what we've got here. This giraffe. Look.
A giraffe in the tree.
Giraffe. A giraffe. Shall I take it with?
Yeah.
Okay.
Do you want to have it?
All right.
Oh,
Giraffe.
right, let's take it.
That's a Maasai giraffe from East Africa. Let's go see
I
what
think
else.
it's an orange and blue giraffe actually.
The psychedelic giraffe from the planet Zog. Ah, so there might be some other interesting things in the forest. So here in the East African forest,
Shall Dad take that one?
we also have
What do you
rhinos.
think
This is a
that is?
white
Is
rhinoceros.
that an elephant?
No,
Is it
that's
a
right.
giraffe? Is it a dog? Is it a rhino?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's a
okay.
rhino. Do you know what kind of rhino it is? It's a white rhinoceros. White is actually a corruption of wide-lipped rhinoceros. Do you see it's got this wide lip here? It's a grazing rhinoceros as opposed to the black one.
Means he's a
which
big
is,
mouth.
which is a
Rhino.
browser.
All
So-
right.
Oh,
There's
what's up?
another
Oh, look
side?
at that. Okay, so
Shall we take
can put
that
this one
rhino?
back here.
I
No,
think
we can
take
put-
the-
look.
I think take the rhino.
But there's a rhino right.
Is that a rhino? You already saw the rhino?
Look, we found it.
Oh,
Do you want to carry it with you? All right.
Is that the same thing that you saw the shape of?
It's a rhino.
Oh, do you think we find other shapes? All right, let's find other shapes.
It's got a bit of a long nose for a horse, isn't it?
Is it a horse?
Is
Is it
it
a cow? A cow?
like?
Look
Look at this long nose. Look at this long.
An elephant.
An elephant.
Shall we see if we find the elephant? I think.
Okay, you want to come at the passage?
I see the elephant in the tree. Do you
Oh,
see it?
look what you found.
Look
See,
at that.
it's not a cow. It's not a horse. It's got this long nose.
Is that the shape of
Yeah, the
Look at
elephant's
it.
got these big tusks, and these big ears mean it's an African elephant.
Hmm.
Take it.
I think we might have a few too many animals.
Do you want
It's
Vanda to
against
take
rules.
it?
I
Okay,
can take
good idea.
All right,
Shall we
find
go see what
someone
else we can find?
You have two already.
Okay.
Your hands full. I see something. This is tricky.
So Rupert, how does doing this, which, I mean, this is so amazing, right? But how does this help the children?
Well, what happens is, as you can see, he's beginning to communicate now, saying what the animal is, who should carry the animal, etc., etc. So he's learning to communicate because of the oxytocin that's going through his body, because of the deep pressure that she's giving him, which a lot of kids on the spectrum crave, because she's a voice in his ear, not a challenging frontal gaze that he has to protect himself from. Worst thing you can do with autistic children is demand eye contact, because it presses their amygdala. So now he's fully engaged in the exterior world. So how does it help him? Helps him with communication. This will carry over into his day-to-day life. But also we're starting to learn natural sciences and natural history. So we can do much better than mere therapy. We can go to actual learning and academics really, really quickly, no matter what the cognitive level of the child. So if the child is too big for us to ride with, or if we're working with an adult, or perhaps even a mother and child up there together, we use long reins and we walk behind the horse, giving the same rhythms. Why walk behind the horse with long reins? Why not lead the horse? Unfortunately, if you lead the horse, you pull the horse forward onto his shoulders. If you pull the horse forward onto his shoulders, the kid will tilt forward. If the kid tilts forward, you activate the psoas muscle. If you activate the psoas muscle, you activate the amygdala. The amygdala is already overdeveloped in kids on the spectrum. That's why they have too much cortisol, which blocks learning, too much anxiety, which blocks learning. So anything you do that puts them here is not gonna work. That's why regular therapeutic riding typically doesn't work for autistic kids. But if the horse is back here, giving these nice rhythms, and the child can relax the psoas muscle, lean back into the person who's holding them, or if they have more core strength because they're bigger, just relax as the horse gives this nice rhythm underneath them. Then we activate the opposite of the cortisol, which is oxytocin, which is the communication hormone, which opens up the brain for learning.
The lion. And who
Maybe
is
we
the
should put
lion?
as a trail.
You see one back there?
Where?
Shall we go find
Let's
him?
go find him.
Let's go.
So you can see how everybody is.
So pointing, typically kids on the autism spectrum, a lot of trouble with this, just theory of mind. It tends to just happen when we work like this because you're activating the learning receptors of the brain. You're also activating the cerebellum, which creates Purkinje cells, which autistic people often have a deficit of, which is social skills, and which are a communication network within the brain that get the different parts of the brain to talk to each other properly. So brain function begins to normalize. So suddenly we get communication, we get pointing, we get identification of the animals, we get correction if we get the animal wrong. Then there's more. We get the vestibular system, which is balance and attention, long-term learning. And finally, BDNF, brain-derived neurotrophic factor, anytime you have to move and problem solve, which makes the brain produce more of its own neurons, basically ups the IQ. A little bit like how you burn more calories when you exercise, and then when you rest afterwards, you continue to burn calories. The same when you move and problem solve and you create this neurotrophic effect, this BDNF. At rest afterwards, the IQ stays more active, so it carries over into the everyday life after the session with the horse. Oh, toll, Nick.
Yeah.
And then we do it in German.
Alright, I think with that we should go back, right?
And look, what do we find? Where's the lion?
You found the lion?
Found the lion.
Ah, shall we take
Good
the lion
gemacht.
home?
Should we take it home? Shall we find a
Are you
carrot?
looking for a donkey?
All right,
I'm not
let's
sure there's
go.
a donkey here. Let's see if we find a donkey.
And
So as Rupert said, we're doing all this to create the right rhythms, to create oxytocin in the child. I hope you saw in the woods how much we can adjust it to the child's needs. If that was with my little boy, it all being about animals, if it is about finding the lion, now he's looking for a donkey. So with having the horse that says yes and that is constantly available and working in to help you and your child, you can just make it all about the kid and have fun. You okay?